is very difficult to officiate because of all of the contact that's happening around her all of the time. That being said, I was in contact with a number of WNBA coaches yesterday about this topic of the officiating in the WNBA.
She is nearly impossible to officiate because every second she's on the floor, she's surrounded by nonstop contact, bodies flying into her, arms swiping across her, and defenders testing the limit of every single rule. But here's where it gets crazy, because when WNBA legend Rebecca Lobo spoke out, she revealed something that instantly set the entire league on fire. What she said about Caitlin Clark and the referees is not just surprising, it's explosive. And the truth is, if the league keeps letting this kind of subpar officiating dictate games like the Fever versus Sun showdown we just witnessed, then the WNBA itself could be staring down a complete disaster, because the Caitlin Clark effect is bigger, louder, and more dangerous than the league seems ready to admit. And behind the scenes, coaches and players are already whispering about what's really happening with the refs. Whispers that Rebecca just dragged into the light. So buckle up, because what you're about to hear changes everything about how the WNBA handles its biggest star and possibly its entire future.
The second-year players clearing out that side of the floor, shooting on Stewie, and then watch the reaction with one another. Stewie's left.
Caitlin Clark's return to the court was nothing short of a wake-up call for the entire league, because in just one half of basketball, she dropped 25 points, including 3 logo bombs that came within 38 seconds, 3 shots so outrageous that they didn't just light up the scoreboard, they shook the very foundation of the WNBA, and suddenly the narrative flipped. Her 5-game absence had been a nightmare for ratings, social media engagement collapsed, national headlines went silent, and every storyline without Caitlin felt like background noise. But the second she laced up again, the audience came roaring back. Her matchup with the Liberty wasn't just another game, it became one of the most watched WNBA broadcasts of all time, pulling a peak of 2.88 million viewers, more than the average audience for the Stanley Cup Finals. Think about that. One player, one return, one electric performance in a regular season game outdrew a men's league that has been around for a century during its championship round. And if that doesn't prove her unmatched star power, nothing will. The problem is the WNBA brass doesn't seem to grasp the magnitude of this moment, but Rebecca Lobo, who has seen it all from Olympic gold to Hall of Fame, absolutely does. And what she pointed out about Caitlin's comeback is a warning shot the league cannot afford to ignore.
Down behind the play, but they've got Caitlin Clark. 2 players with incredible up. Clark, another long 3.
Rebecca Lobo didn't waste words when she described Caitlin Clark's return. She called it seismic, because the numbers told the entire story. Viewership didn't just rise, it snapped back instantly. And that simple phrase she used, "viewers are returning," is actually the most telling statement of all. Because if fans are coming back, it means they stopped watching in the first place. The exact moment Caitlin was sidelined, the league's ratings tanked by nearly 50%, engagement plummeted, buzz disappeared, and then the very instant she stepped back onto the floor, everything shifted again, and Lobo went further, reminding everyone that Caitlin isn't just a rising star, she is the star. The one player whose absence cripples the league and whose presence revives it. And that's the uncomfortable truth the WNBA doesn't want to say out loud, but insiders like Rebecca can't ignore, because if one player has the power to drag the entire sport into the spotlight, then protecting her isn't optional, it's survival. Yet, instead of wrapping her in the protection every superstar deserves, the officiating has been reckless, inconsistent, and sometimes downright dangerous. And that's why Lobo's comments weren't just analysis, they were a warning, a subtle but clear shot fired at the league's inability to safeguard the golden goose who is keeping the WNBA alive.
Here we go with Caitlin Clark, singularly, being missing for the time she was gone, and ratings tanking, 50% in some cases. And then also she comes back and reminds everyone how spectacular she is.
The Fever versus Sun showdown turned into the clearest example yet of how bad the officiating has gotten. Because Caitlin Clark wasn't just defended hard, she was physically mauled, first hit with a body check, then raked across the face in full view of the officials, and somehow no whistle came. Now, trash talk is one thing. Clark has never been shy about chirping back at opponents, but words don't justify violence, and yet the referees allowed the game to spiral into something that looked more like a WWE brawl than professional basketball. Fans were outraged, commentators were stunned, and even rival players admitted they had never seen anything like it. The tension boiled so hot that after the game, Stephanie White's frustration was written all over her body language. She took a deep breath before speaking, but when she did, it was clear she was furious. And the truth is, the referees completely lost control. Their silence only fueled the chaos. And this wasn't just one night. It was the culmination of weeks of inconsistency, soft fouls for some teams, blatant no calls for others, and almost every time Caitlin Clark was at the center, either punished for breathing too hard or ignored when she was getting crushed. And that is why fans are now calling it what it is, a double standard that threatens not only Clark's health, but the league's credibility.
About the WNBA. So if you needed to sort of have it affirmed to you that it is just her, that the singularity of her is what we are talking about and her star power, you got it with this absence and then the way she came back.
The Liberty game earlier in the season was already a boiling point because that night the officiating disparity was impossible to ignore. New York lived at the free throw line while Indiana could barely buy a whistle, and the final possession was the last straw. Caitlin Clark clearly fouled by Natasha Cloud in front of millions of viewers, and yet the refs swallowed the whistle. The fever lost in heartbreaking fashion, and social media erupted. Video after video proving the foul went viral. Fans were livid, commentators piled on, and Stephanie White completely lost her composure, not because she was dramatic, but because she was right. The officiating was indefensible. She even got fined for her outburst, which only made the fan anger worse, because to many, it looked like the league was punishing coaches instead of holding referees accountable. And here's the kicker. White wasn't even fined for ripping the refs after the Sun game, which almost felt like the league quietly admitting their mistakes, as if they knew how bad it really looked. And all of this adds up to the same conclusion. The WNBA has a major officiating crisis on its hands, and when that crisis directly involves the players single-handedly driving ratings and attention, it stops being just bad refereeing. It becomes a full-blown threat to the future of the league itself.
What does Clark's return mean for the WNBA?
Well, I mean, it means a lot more people are paying attention once again. We know how much Caitlin drives ratings. We know how much Caitlin drives attention on the WNBA. And for her to come back and do it in that way was just ridiculous.
What makes this even more disturbing is that the players themselves have been sounding the alarm for months, complaining about the rough play, pointing out the dangerous hits, literally telling the refs that if this continues, someone is going to get hurt. And instead of listening, the officials have been laughing, actually chuckling at players mid-game as if their safety concerns were a joke. And that is the moment you realize this isn't just incompetence, it's negligence. Because the game has never been faster, stronger, or more physical. The athletes are pushing their bodies to the limit every possession. Yet, the referees are the only ones not improving. And here's the part that sends chills down the spine of every fan. If Caitlin Clark gets injured because of this incompetence, it's not just Indiana that suffers. It's game over for the WNBA. Every coach knows it. Every player knows it. The networks know it. And Rebecca Lobo made that crystal clear. She didn't sugarcoat it. She said every single coach she's spoken to believes the officiating is out of control. And if that's the consensus across the league, then what we're watching isn't just sloppy refereeing, it's the creation of a dangerous new reality where players feel forced to police the game themselves, to hit harder, to push back, to get physical, simply to survive. And once the game slips into that territory, the WNBA's credibility isn't just at risk, it's hanging by a thread.
Sitting there at the end of the first quarter when she had that 38-second stretch where she drained deep three after deep three after deep three. I was just sitting there thinking, I've been around this league since 1997. I have never seen that in a WNBA game. Have we seen players go on runs? Of course we have, but not like that. Not where a couple of the three-pointers are from 30 plus feet. It was an exhibition by her.
At this point, it feels like it's open season on Caitlin Clark because the cheap shots and body checks keep piling up while the whistles stay silent. And once players realize there's no protection, they start pushing boundaries harder, knowing they can get away with things that should never fly in professional basketball. And that is how a league begins to unravel, because when referees fail to control the game, it forces everyone else to create their own rules. Coaches tell their players, if the refs won't protect you, then you have to protect yourself. And that turns basketball into survival of the fittest. A dangerous arms race where physicality escalates until someone gets seriously hurt. And the worst part is, it doesn't look like random mistakes anymore. It feels like a message. Like the league is quietly signaling that Caitlin Clark will not be given the superstar protection other leagues automatically extend to their biggest draw. And if that perception sticks, if fans and players believe the WNBA is letting its golden goose take hit after hit without consequence, then it won't just be Caitlin Clark's health at risk, it will be the credibility and future of the entire league hanging in the balance.
Hey, we would have been crashing out, RT.
Courtney, if somebody ever tackles you like that,
Nobody would ever tackle me like that. They would play with Bridget like that, and then we would have to like take it up there.
okay.
You see what I'm saying?
But I'm just saying.
Nobody would ever tell me like
If
that.
that ever happened, you better crash out behind me, because I'm crashing out behind you.
T,
We can share the same jail cell.
Rebecca Lobo's closing words cut deeper than anything else because she didn't just highlight the problem, she confirmed that every single coach she's spoken with agrees officiating is the #1 crisis facing the WNBA, not marketing, not scheduling, not expansion, but the referees. And that's terrifying, because if all the coaches see it and all the players feel it, then the league has no excuse to keep ignoring it. The longer they wait, the more dangerous the environment becomes. Because without protection, the game isn't just tough, it's reckless. And when you combine reckless officiating with the most valuable star the league has ever had, you create a disaster waiting to happen. That is why Lobo's remarks landed like a bombshell. She didn't scream, she didn't exaggerate. She said it in the calmest, clearest way possible, and yet the meaning was unmistakable. If Caitlin Clark goes down, the league goes with her, and everyone from the locker rooms to the broadcast booths to the boardrooms knows it. The WNBA is standing on a knife's edge, and Lobo just made sure the entire world sees how close they are to falling. At this point, the pattern is undeniable because the WNBA has created an environment where players feel they can hit Caitlin Clark without consequence, where coaches openly complain about bias, where fans flood social media with slow-motion replays proving missed calls, and where commentators who have covered the league for decades are admitting they've never seen anything like this. And that perception alone is lethal, because once people believe it's open season on the league's brightest star, the damage is already done. Every shove, every claw, every uncalled foul becomes more evidence that the officials either can't or won't protect her, and the longer that continues, the louder the outrage grows. We've already seen fan trust collapse during her injury absence. We've already watched ratings nosedive without her, and we've already seen them skyrocket the second she returned. So imagine the backlash if she were to get sidelined again because the referees refuse to do their job. The WNBA can't afford that risk. Not financially, not culturally, not historically. Because Caitlin Clark is not just a player, she is the engine of the entire league. And right now, that engine is being left wide open to be wrecked. And so here we are, the truth laid bare. Caitlin Clark isn't just another rookie-turned-star. She is the WNBA's lifeline, the one player who can drag ratings into record territory and bring millions of new eyes to the sport. But instead of protecting her, the referees are failing, the league leadership is hesitating, and the coaches are losing patience. Rebecca Lobo said out loud what everyone else has been whispering. If Caitlin goes down, the WNBA goes down with her. It's that simple. And now the pressure is higher than ever, because fans are watching every call, every shove, every missed whistle, and the outrage will only grow until something changes. This is the crossroads moment. Either the WNBA steps up and safeguards its biggest star, or it risks losing not just Caitlin Clark, but the momentum she has single-handedly built. And if that happens, the league won't just be dealing with bad officiating, it will be staring at the collapse of everything it has worked to build. The Caitlin Clark effect is real, it's powerful, and unless the league learns how to protect it, the very thing that made the WNBA matter could also be the thing that destroys it.